listen to what you say, but I'm always watching what you do because I believe your action must line up with your words.
Okay, yeah, so excited. Good morning, whatever you want to say today. Just excited about today because you have now reached to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast. And I'm Dr. B, I'm your host, and just excited today, as I am every single day, about the possibility of you being able to not only learn, from me and what we do and the process of the journey to freedom, but we to have these amazing, incredible guests that we get to talk to. So in 2024, we are interviewing 100 black men. And what I found out is we're in the 70s, some of the episodes, and we're in October, so we still have, November and December to get done. But what's so cool about what's going on is I have so many people that have sent me submissions of other black men who are doing things in their community, who are making a difference, who are making an impact, that are just doing some phenomenal things. And so we will probably take this on into 2025. And so if we do 100 in 2024, maybe we'll do 200 in 2025, because the more people that we can get out that are doing successful, that are taking care of their families, that are taking care of their kids, that are taking care of their money and taking care of their finance and changing their identity to become men that are on this journey to freedom, that will change their lives. And so just excited about the possibility. Today we have Pastor Will Loggins on today. And so excited to hear his story and what he's been able to do and what he's been able to accomplish throughout his life, as we talked about trust and faith and finance and identity and health. We may get to all five of those pillars. We may get to two, just because of his experience and the things that he's done. And so I don't want to talk a whole bunch more because I want to get into what, Pastor Will is doing. And so, Pastor, thank you for being on. Thank you for taking your time out of your day. I know we tried this yesterday. I'm traveling and I was in the hotel and the internet was so bad that we never had the opportunity to be able to talk today. And so go ahead and let us know exactly who you are and what you're doing. Excited about having you on today.
Oh, well, thank you. It's an honor to be on here, and I thank you for the invitation here. It's actually I was excited and looking for and had anticipation on being on here. So, as I said, my name is Will Loggins, short for William. I pastor True Faith Worship Ministry. I've been pastoring for about 6 years, but I've been in the ministry for a little bit over 30 years and came up through old school way. I am also I serve in the office of a pastor. I put it that way. I'm also a banker. I work for a bank, and I came out. I used to be came up through the mortgage industry. I was a mortgage broker. I came up during the time way back when they were dealing with the predatory lending situation and stuff, which kind of got me out of that. But um, a little bit more about myself. I've been married. I'm married to her name is Kelly Loggins. She's a retired deputy, beauty pageant. So I hit the jackpot. So, but again, that's uh, pretty much it. And I came up. I was born here in Denver. In Denver, Colorado, but we left here in '66 and was raised in Missouri. And I moved back here in 1983. Because I love the mountains. So, but that's pretty much the majority of my background. I um, wasn't it was not in my intended thing to be pastor, because when it was asked, have you thought about pastoring? And I said no, because I've always been an assistant, or something in serving in a different capacity within the body of Christ or within the church. And when the question was asked, did you want to be a pastor? And I said, no, because I see what they go through. And I said, so I don't know if that was for me, but to God be the glory. Here I am, and I love what I do, and I just love what I love helping. I'm about and I don't know, it's about in lack of a better term, empowerment. Just empowering people to be the best them that they can be, and so that's pretty much in a summary of some of the things. I can go on and on, but that's pretty much.
So now you
Okay,
said that
so.
you left Denver in 1966. I was born in
Mhm.
1965 in Denver, so maybe our paths crossed when I was a baby. Probably not. When did you come back to Denver, and what brought you back to Denver?
Oh, um, well, I don't know. I kind of lost a little bit of it, but when 66, I was 10 years old. I was so to kind of give you an idea. I was born in 55, so so yeah, I was a little bit young. Young, I was a young guy, and most of my family, my mom and majority of my family, is from Missouri. So
And
so
what
that
brought
was
you
a
back to
reason
Denver?
why
Like, what
we,
year did you get back?
my mom, she decided. Well, at the time, just to be transparent, I love the mountains. I always loved the mountains, but at the time, I was a beer drinker, and we couldn't get Coors beer back in Missouri. So, so those were two things at the time. But the majority of the majority of it was I love the mountains, and it was freedom. I remember moving back in '83, and this is before, as you may well know, Colorado was just open. A lot of the things that we see now, it was just open land, open field, and I remember saying, man, Colorado is one of the best kept secrets around, and it was a matter of fact, the question was asked of me, um, does any black people live in Colorado? They thought it was a Western place, but uh,
Oh, I love it.
and that was it. I remember
But one of the
being
things,
able to go up to the.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I was, what's kind of funny is how when I talked about our paths crossing, I was born in 65 at Denver General, and then you were 10 and you left in 66 when you were 11. And then I grew up and I went to Cherry Creek High School and I graduated in 1983 and moved to California. And that's when you came back to Denver. So our paths just didn't cross, till now, which is kind of cool. Um, what do you think shaped your identity the most? Like, if we think about your identity and what you've done, what do you think shaped it the most, that allowed you to become the person that you are?
I have to say, my mother, my mom. One of the things when we grew up, unfortunately, I didn't have a a growing relationship with my father. So as some may know, sometimes the mother had to be the best father she could, or teaching, but she was always your mom. And one of the things that she raised her us, and my brothers and sisters, some who are now gone on to be with the Lord, to make sure that you're independent. Um, so we were taught as boys how to iron, how to sew, how to cook, how to do dishes, and how to do all these things, and um, so that way we'll be able to function, independently, but also to be a help when we got to the point where we was getting married. And so anyway, going back to the basic is my mom and life experiences, life experiences.
Gotcha. when you think about trust, the word trust. I went to a seminar about a year ago, and kind of believing everything divides with trust. And we think about as Black men how we've been able to trust others, and has trust been part of something that we've been able to do? What would you say um, your experience has been around being able to trust others? You're a pastor now, at a church, and people trust usually the clergy. But what have you found throughout your life on being able to trust in the different spaces that you've been part of?
Well, I would most also have to say I have I'm a firm believer. Um, First of all, knowing who people are, so that means you have to take time to get to know them, and realizing everybody is their individual within their own right. But I'm one who I'll listen to what you say, but I'm always watching what you do because I believe your action must line up with with your words. Um, and so that's been my one thing. Is just and even when learning, because there's been times when we you put trust in individuals and they take for granted that trust. So I've along the line I've had my trust tested, in lack of a better word, but I learned to know that people there's no perfect person, so I don't allow that the one individual or individuals to stop me from trusting everybody. So I don't try to lump everybody into one basket. You know, so it's
Now, do you
some
do
to be
like
honest, it's a
when you
trial
think?
by error.
Oh, gotcha. So when you're thinking about trust, are you a person who automatically trusts somebody as soon as you see them until they prove you wrong and not to trust them? Are you a person who I'm not going to trust you till now you prove that you're trustworthy? Or is there a mix in between? And then how would you figure out who you're going to trust in between and then not trust? How do you do that in your mind and as you process things?
Well, I would say it's a mix. I don't immediately put full trust in everybody. I more or less give people opportunity to show me that they can be trusted. Again, it's like I listen to what is being said, and I begin just to systematically watch their actions. Um, and if the actions line up with nobody's perfect, but I would say at least if the action line up to with 90, at least 97% of what they say, yeah, then there's a level of trust. I like to refer to like what Jesus did in his day. Even though he ministered, he had like 500 or more disciples. A lot of people kind of overlooked that. He had 12 in a circle, but when he went to do other things, to pray, I'm just kind of paraphrasing. He took three with him. Then he went one. So he had a big circle, but his circle was, for lack of a better term, he had 12 that he knew that he can trust, and they was not perfect people, but he called. He had 12. So I'm like this. Um, I know I have a circle, for lack of a better word, and those who I know that I can trust are you have an inner circle, you have the outer circle, and then you just have those you can still continue to, or as they were saying, you have associates and you have friends. and, and so those who have I have learned that I can trust are my friends, and those who I know that I have to limit my trust are my associates. So that way I just don't leave anybody to the curb. So hopefully that makes sense.
When you think about our purpose, like one of the, I say one of the things that I do is help people become the person they need to be in order to do the thing that they were put on this earth to do. Why God put them on this earth. And it sounds like you're now aligned with your purpose. What did it take, or what are some of the stories that happened in your life that allowed you to go down this path to be a pastor, to be a person that is willing to work with others to help them in their life's journey? How did you get to where you're at now?
Well, so again, with transparency, I'm a former alcoholic, and it took me uh, to deal with that part of me, getting to know who I am um, before I can be able to help somebody else. I'm a firm believer that says my mom used to say, "There's nothing like an old food." I never did quite understand that, but as life would have it, I I, had to go through some life changing experiences. One being delivered, literally. When I say delivered from the hold of alcoholism, helped me to understand who I am, and also dealing with losses in my personal life. I losing a daughter at a very early age, I was 26, to suicide, and then losing um, my mom and brothers and sisters, and uh, so it's the losses and the gains in life that help me to understand. Because I believe this: in order to be able to help somebody else, you got to be able uh, to be able to know who you are first. I can't help nobody if I don't know who I am, and I believe life experiences will help you get you that. You For example, when I was going through my phase uh, to being delivered from alcoholism, I remember going through. I was in a class, and the young man who had never had a drink in his life was hosting the class. And so as he was sitting there, he was kind of reading from a book, And so I asked him the question. I said, "Young man, have you ever had a drink in your life?" And he said, "No, sir." And I said, with all due respect, then how can you really tell me what it's like to, how can you share from your point what it's like, what we're going through here in this office? Just using it as an example, and it really kind of helped me to know life gives you the opportunity, life experiences allow you to have opportunity to go through things. And I always tell, like I tell the church, the Lord allows you to go through things because throughout somewhere during the period of what we call life, you're going to run into somebody that's going to be going through something that you've already been through, and then you'll be able to help them to make it through. You may not be able to give them all the answers, but you'll be able to navigate them through that one experience because you've already been there, done that, and know what it's like. So for me, that's been that my experiences has helped me, and I trust me when I say I've been through a lot. And so there's not much that people that I have encountered in my years of life that I have not experienced some part of, or know somebody that experienced, and I can draw from. Yeah. So hopefully, I hope that answered a little bit. That's a long way around it.
Yeah, it does. What would you say? And this is where I struggle sometimes, and I think of uh, what to do. Like I think of a coach like Bill Belichick, right? So Bill Belichick is one of the coach of the Patriots, wins all these Super Bowls, has the ability to be an incredible coach, and yet he never played football. And so, because he never played the sport, or he was never a quarterback, or never a defensive back, how does he coach and teach others to be able to do that, or do you separate yourself out? Because I believe experience is super important, and the experiences that like you've been able to have, and the experiences that you've been able to be able to help people out, I think are super important, and in different arenas. But at the same time, when sometimes we're looking for somebody who can coach us or who can help us get out of something. and they haven't experienced what we experience, and yet they may have some insight. How do you balance that? Um, and like I said, it's something that I struggle with a lot when I'm thinking about, how do I lead black men to be good fathers? Now I've been a father, so I can do that. But if I hadn't been a father, am I still qualified to help that person get through that process? What's your thought?
That's a good question. My answer would be, even if there's something that you have not experienced, if you've been around people who have experienced, listen to them, learn from their experience. Um, and so it's that's something else that have helped me as well, because there's some things I have not experienced, but I've been around individuals who've been through some things, and so listening to them and drawing from them and letting them pour into me, and asking them questions. Hey, just as like you're asking me, how did you make it through? And so I can have somebody and say, hey, I have a reference. Being honest and open, say I've never been through that, but I have a reference of somebody or individuals that I know that's been through this, and this is what I've learned from them. So can I share what I've learned from them, and maybe hopefully this will be able to help you. Um, so that for me, that's the that's also helped me too when I've run into individuals throughout my life, and they've been through some things, and they ask me, but also being um, a former pastor said, you have to be able to be into a level of life where you can know, you should be able to be comfortable enough to say, I don't know. You know, I don't know. So, because there's some people that wants to be, they don't, I've ran into individuals who say they want to know everything. So you have to come to that level where you can tell somebody, look, I don't know. But what I don't know, let me take a moment, let me find out for you. Or talk to me and let me learn from you, or something like that. So that's what's kind of helped me to kind of navigate to the situations, learning to tell people, I don't know, I never experienced that. Just being
Well, I
being
can I can
transparent to
imagine
a
that,
point
as a
to where you're not
pastor.
revealing everything.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, like I said, I can imagine as a pastor that you're not just a pastor for men. You're not at a prison and you're only doing a certain gender. And so I can imagine that there's been some women that who come to you and say, well, my husband's not acting right. And you can say, well, I've been a husband and I can probably identify with not acting right, but I've never been the wife of a somebody who's not acting right and having to deal with that. But like you said, you can listen. You can look at those intentions and you can still revert to saying, hey, I don't know. I really, let me find a wife maybe that's been in that situation, and then you can refer resources, right? If somebody's just not getting what you have, and so then it becomes who you know instead of what you know. I can imagine that that's something that you've been able to do and probably do well. You have any thoughts on that?
Actually, that's actually very good, because another key thing is having resources like that, having a wisdom, people that who's been through something, and you trust them enough and they trust you enough that I can say, hey, I don't know, but I know someone that can possibly help me with that, and refer them to that. So it's again, it's being able to say, comfortable and say I don't know, but having resources, so to speak, or individuals with enough wisdom that will be able to help somebody out. So yeah, you can't. Again, as a pastor, you have to be. You can't be just um, um, live do this with blind. You got you got to go in knowing you're going to run across some things that you just don't know about. So it's good to have somebody can say,
So, how important have relationships and people that you've had to associate with in the success of you in life and the things that you've been able to do and accomplish? How do those relationships that are around you play in whether you cultivated them or maybe there might have been some bad ones that said, I'll never want to be like that?
Um, I believe I'm a firm believer that relationships are very important, and how you nurture them and cultivate them um, is a great benefit to you and to them. Um, the one thing I've learned through the course of life is that I learned from every mistake, whether good or bad, that I have endured. When I've had individuals that I nurtured a relationship and actually got hurt in them. Instead of letting that take me into a different direction, I chose to learn from it, and so that way I wouldn't make the same mistake again, or I would be able to recognize it and to cultivate it in a different way.
We transition into health right now. One of the things that we need to, as black men, if the life expectancy is age 72, um, and we need to figure out how we can live much longer so we can make that much more of a difference. What are some of the things you do, both, and probably things that you teach as a pastor, both physically to maintain health, and then when we think about mental health and the things that you see in your daily walk of life, what are some of the things you do to help people with their mental health as well?
That's one of the things. And again, this is still that part is still kind of. I'm always constantly learning and educating. Um, I'm always reading and I'm always reading and researching things because I don't want to give and knowing my limits. I think that's so key is knowing my limits. I don't try to go outside my the limits of my knowledge or trying to to go beyond the boundaries of what uh, what I have learned or what the Lord is leaning or along that line. Um, I believe that in order for us to have good health and good mental health is to recognize and to recognize it and knowing how to structure your life. Um, as individuals, not only as pastors, we can get so caught up with everyday life we forget. As one pastor friend told me, said we be living so much we forget how to live. Sometimes you have to stand back and just take a deep breath in and just live, and just live. Take time, and I tell people, take time, enjoy life. You can walk through a rose bed if you never take time to smell it. You just walk through it and never can, and miss the enjoyment of smelling the roses, so to speak. So it's limiting, knowing, not limiting my knowledge of my role, so to speak. I don't want to go on that. But just when people come in, I deal with people and they're dealing with stressful things, and I tell them, take a moment, take a deep breath. When's the last time you took a vacation? When's the last time you read a good book or something like that along the lines, and just you know live your life because um, live your life and take good take if your body listen to your body too because your body will talk to you. And if your body's talking to you, listen to what it says and do what it needs to be. Make sure that you stay as healthy as you possibly can.
So, so what do you say to the parishioner who says, hey, the doctor told me that I need to lose some weight, but when I come to church every Sunday, you're serving me donuts, and I can't just stay away from those things that I'm eating. How do you help somebody like that who is needing to follow, can't seem to be put themselves in the place that allows them to do well.
Well, because I like to cook and I do like to eat, but I also recognize that somebody if somebody comes in and if they let me uh, know there's an issue with them, um, I will try to do my best to make sure that they'll move the donuts out of this. Or I would remind them, didn't you tell me that the doctor says to lay off those donuts? So let's push that to the side. I believe there's a scripture in the Bible. It escapes me right now where Paul talks about wherever he's at. You know, it's like when you're in Rome. I'm just paraphrasing. You do when in Rome, do what the Romans do, or something like that. But I'm kind of paraphrasing. Hmm. And so,
Well, cool.
yeah. So
Let's
I'm.
talk about
That's a tough one.
yeah, it is for sure. When we talk about money, money is one of those subjects that we don't talk to a lot, to each other about, and how to keep a financial house in order. With budgeting, or even when we think about tithing and think about what percentage goes when you're helping somebody, or somebody comes to you, and I know in the position that you're at, where you see a lot of people who are in need, and they come to you asking, and then you look at their money habits. You probably still need to help them, but what are some of the advice that you give them that can help them through understanding how money works?
Okay, well, that's good. That's a very good question. One of the things I do, I always initiating with them, and I tell them, I said, sit down. Um, there's a thing I tell them, I said, do a column of wants and needs, and I said, and under that column of wants and needs, you put down everything that you want, and then you under the column of your needs, put down everything that you need, and then you take out your whatever your income is, and you take your time and see how much money you spend on your wants, which that's basically what it is what we want, what we really don't need, and how much money you spend on your needs. Myself, and then I ask them about, do you have a budget? Um, and if you do have a budget, what does that budget look like? Um, do you have a bank account? Have you thought about investing in opening up a CD? Have you So I start, especially being in doing what I do for a living. It's like I give them simplicity ideals of what you need to do, and I tell one of the biggest things you'll find, and I in when you're dealing with your finances, if you don't have a budget, are not able to. It's also not having a budget, but to be able to live by that budget. Um, and so, because in my household, in our household, my wife and I, she's my budgeter. So, um,
No, I would say one of the things as men is sometimes we just, because we might not understand, we let somebody else take the reins, and we just, like, hey, I'm going to let my wife just take care of the money. She's better at it. She'll just give me an allowance, um, or something like that. But we're not involved in understanding what's going on. How important is it that we, even if we're not the one who's paying the bills and doing this stuff, just knowing the process of how money works?
except for the last part. What was the last part of it?
I was just saying, when we think about men and trying to
The
understand
process
how
of
money
knowing how money
works,
works.
how important is this?
So,
Yeah.
okay, I believe it's very important, especially in the times in the season that we're in now. When as I refer back and I said my wife is our budgeter, because I know I can trust her to do what is necessary. So um, but what we did, we sat down and we talked about it, and again, man, because I first couple of years of our marriage, and a lot of times in most marriages, unless you already said, there's a struggle. The biggest things that I've seen that will cause a divorce is finances. And, and so when we sit down, we came and we sit down and we talked about, hey, this is what I make, this is what you make. How can we make this work together? And still, um, so and everybody, this may not work for everybody. We have a joint account, but we also have our individual accounts. Our joint account is what we use for our house. Then we have our individual accounts to do what we want to do without touching the household. But it takes to be able to have a budget. You have to be really, um, what's the lack of the word I'm looking for? And be very diligent and dedicated to sticking to that budget. And I think that's where most people fall short at sometimes is being dedicated, diligent to the budget that you set forth. And knowing how money, just really knowing how money works.
What would you say? And then, as I'm switching topics a little bit here and kind of moving around, what would you say it means to be a husband? If I'm talking to black men that are, maybe didn't have a dad in the house, or mom and dad weren't married and had to switch it around, what does it mean to be a husband and a good man?
I would say, if I talk as I do talk to men sometimes, in order to be a good husband, you got to, first of all, it starts with you. It starts with you. You got to, you got to know um, who you are. You got to know who you are. There's sometimes we get into the things like most. I would say a good portion of men, of black men, don't know what it's like to, first of all, to be a black man. It's just to be a man. We've been so you got to. I had to learn because I didn't have a father that really taught me that. Um, and my mother, she did the best that she could, but I had to learn that I had a made up mind. I made up my mind personally that I wanted to be the best man, the best husband that I can be for whenever that the opportunity came for me to get married. Then I wouldn't have to work on who I am because I've already worked on that. But I would be able to present, hey, this is who I am. And then they would have the option to accept me as I am, even though we're not perfect, but at least that we would know this is what um, she's working with me. And so, and it is, and that varies for different men. It depends on how you was raised and how you grew up. I mean, in the in the state of the of church, we some people take scripture and they want to use scripture to do that, and um, which really gets used out of total context sometimes. Um, I believe that, and I can only speak from my experience. When my wife and I came together, we came together. I said, "This is who I am. I'm a work in progress, but this is who I am." And she said the same thing. She came and she said, "Well, this is who I am." And I said, "So we have a foundation of who we are." I said, "Now together we can work on this marriage. We don't have to lose our identity to become one." The Bible said the two shall become one. And so we got to also be able to say that, I was able to say, "Hey, this is my faults. These are some things I'm still working on." And she would say that she reciprocate the same thing. Now I'm going to bring it in because I was primarily raised up in the church. I said the next woman that I marry, um, it was one of the things will have to love the Lord more than she can ever love me. And we went through marriage counseling. I mean, with the premarital counseling. And to me, I think that's a wonderful thing. I would recommend that to anybody. Go through premarital counseling, but be willing to be open and honest about everything. But that was one of my requirements for me. It's like she would have to love the Lord more than she can ever love me. And the reason why I said that, to make it short, is because as long as God is the center, there's nothing that we won't be able to work it out. We know that we're going to have our ups and days and things like that, but we're always able to work it out. But the first thing, going back to your question, I had to work on me first before I walk into and bring somebody into this life. So I don't know if that quite answered the question, but from my perspective.
Are there some habits that you think that are things that we should do as men every single day in order to enhance those relationships? Like uh, a set of things that, whether they're personal development things, like we set up and we work on us, we work on who the person we are, or we get up every morning and we read our scriptures, or what are some maybe 4 or 5 things that you could suggest that we do every day in order to move forward? Because so many people get stuck and they're moving backwards, or they get angry, or they get depressed, or the habits that they've created aren't some that serve them to be better people. What are some of those things that we could do?
The first thing I would say, you're not perfect. You're not perfect. And I think a lot of times we, as men, we want to be so perfect because we're told so many things. Coming up, we said, a man ain't supposed to cry, a man ain't supposed to do this, a man ain't supposed to do that. Know who you are and be the best you, but know that you're not going to be perfect. Hey, you get up every day, and I do believe that you should get up, and if you have a relationship with the Lord, give Him thanks, pray, or whatever they may lead you to do. But if you exercise. You may not exercise. I'm a golfer. I love to play golf. Not the best at it, but I love to play golf. So um, develop a routine and follow that routine. If you get up and after you do your prayer, get up. If you exercise. If you make a mistake, that's okay. Get up, keep moving forward. I think we get hung up on because we're told that men don't do this, that we forgot that we're just men and we're not perfect and we will make the mistakes. So um, the old saying is that every setback is nothing but a setup. So every setback, let it be a setup and keep moving forward and just love life.
What what does
Um,
Pastor Will do? Plays golf, I know that. But what else do you do? Like if I'm going to take things that are fun, and we have our spouses that we love to dearly. How do you balance the things that are fun like golf with doing things? I'm thinking about like the love languages and stuff. And how do you balance making sure that you take care of your wife and find things that she would like to do that maybe might not be things that you love to do?
hmm. um, well, if I'm understanding your question, right, how do I balance um, church, home, work, all those are together? There's a when I was growing up, and just to make a long story short, I grew up when there was time. We always thought everything. Um, there was an order that was we were supposed to live by. So for me, speaking from my position, is like I always keep God first, um, and then my family. Do whatever I need to do, and I can say it this way: whatever you used to do, if is when it comes to your spouse or your intended spouse, or you know what you did to get her, you do not stop doing that. Um, just because you get married, don't stop dating. Keep dating her. Uh, um, sometimes you get and knowing. For me, I have my safe space. which is downstairs in my basement. Because there's some days, so there's a balance. But I don't allow. I try not to. Let me put it that way. I try not to allow to put too many things um, before my relationship with my wife. Um, we so it's that delicate balance and work. Sometimes we can be workaholics because we want to provide good things for our home and for our things like that. But we even got to know how to keep that in balance. And I would say because you can have everything. You can have the fine home. You can have the big cars. You can have all those things. But if you don't have happiness, if you don't have content, you just have things. And some things you ain't gonna take them with you. So you know, that's a fine balance, and it's an individual thing, how you look at it. Um, but I try to, for me, I just try to do the best I can. Um, um, it's not always perfect.
What are some things that maybe that you wanted to talk about today that we didn't get to talk about that you would love to share with the people who are listening um, about life and what it means to in this journey to freedom? Like, what does freedom mean to you, and what didn't we talk about?
Okay, I do. Again, I think this was a wonderful opportunity. One of the things that I believe, especially as a black man, is that we have a generation that's coming behind us. I believe that there should be a more targeted focus on how can we empower to prepare the generation coming behind us to pass this mantle on, to learn from the mistakes that we've learned from ours, to not it doesn't go roll over to the generation behind us. I think we get so we as men of color, we get so caught up as being black men that sometimes we just got to remember we're not only black men, but we're um, men that other younger men look up to. So um, I think for me that's a big thing that I have on my heart right now is being able to prepare the next generation, what I call the job, to pass that mantle on. What are we going to pass over to the generation that's coming behind us? Um, we don't want to just teach them to fight. We want to teach them to 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 be better than what we are. If we learn of what the people before us took on, let's pass on um, knowledge and education that we've learned from our struggles, that they don't have to do the same struggle that we're going through or have experienced. And I think that's one of the things being. I love the title is "A Journey to Freedom." Um, we've been able to um, learn or live from the backs of others who lost, who gave a lot of things to be able to where we now can have this conversation and be free about it. Because there was a time when we would not be able to have this conversation without being in trouble. Yeah. So I think this is an awesome opportunity. This right here, what we're doing now, I believe this is freedom right here, to be able to have a conversation as two black men about life, ups and downs.
Well, Pastor Will, I so appreciate you being willing to take the time out of your day and to come on to the show and to, despite technological challenges and that kind of stuff, that you were still willing to share your heart. And, as people are going to watch this and as you're watching this, I encourage you to subscribe and to ring the bell because as we're interviewing people who have been successful into working through life. And success means different things to different people. It is a different road for each of us. But if we can look back and know that we shared our lives with somebody else in order to help them become the person that they need to be. One of the things that the program allows us to do is say, hey, who are you? And then how do I help you become the person you need to be in order to do the things that God put you on this earth to do? We're getting ready to take 14 black men to Alabama in the end of January because we want to say, okay, this is where we came from. These are the things, the struggles that the folks that came before us went through. These are the opportunities we have. And now what are you going to do with it? And so I just appreciate the fact that you were willing to come on today, that you were willing to talk to us today, that you were willing to share your life in a way that will make a difference in other people's life. And so, again, thank you for being on. Is there any final closing thoughts that you would like to share?
I just appreciate it. It's been an honor and it's a pleasure. I was excited about it when the invitation that you extended the invitation. So I think it's just a wonderful thing. And any way that I can support, you have my full support on this. So again, thank you so much for having me on there. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to share my life experience. I don't get that every day, so I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are watching, make sure you tune into the next one and make sure you've gone through some of the other ones. Don't forget that you, my friend, are God's greatest gift, and He loves you if you allow Him to. And we look forward to talking to you in the next one. You guys have an amazing, just incredible day today.